earnings into the sewer capital stabilization fund. What that allows us to do, if we don't have free cash available, these funds can be used for capital items as long as approved at town meeting, so we can use them at any time once they're in the stabilization fund.
So is the chair looking for a motion to approve Article number 1?
Or all at the same
Or all at
time?
the same time, yeah.
Oh, I'd
Do you-
like to
One at a
consider
time?
them one at a time.
Okay.
So I move to approve sewer Article number 1, rescind Article 19, 2022, Fall Town Meeting article, to see if the town will vote to rescind Article 19 from the 2022 Fall Town Meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So then, at the bottom of that, then we can fill in
Yeah,
the
I will
date.
fill in the date in the vote.
Okay.
I make a motion, we approve sewer Article number 2 for the Sandwich Force Main installation and Minot Ave sewer improvements for $26 million.
Seconded?
So the explanation doesn't include, oh no, okay. The bottom of that explanation, the new force main will provide the ability to address the town's future needs to connect more properties to sewer and reduce the number of cesspools in Title V systems. And then it lists the 3 phases, just
Yes.
for the record. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sewer Article number 3 for the installation of the Sandwich Road Force Main for $16.5 million. I make a motion, we approve it.
Seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So just, can I just ask this question? So procedurally at the special town meeting then, if the first one passes, these will never
If
be
the
brought
first
up?
one passes, we will make a formal motion that our second one be
Withdrawn.
withdrawn.
Okay,
But if the first one comes up, I will be speaking with the moderator that if that comes up, we pull the 26 out of sequence and use that first. The 26 must be done first.
Yeah.
okay.
So depending on which way the ball is pulled, we can ask for the moderator to modify the sequence of presenting the articles. I make a motion, we approve sewer Article number 4, which is the transferring of $1.5 million retained earnings to the sewer capital stabilization fund.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. I will update the articles with the date and vote that we just passed, and I will submit them to the appropriate parties at the town. More than likely, it would be Ms. Whiteside for the Select Board, Mr. Sullivan as the TA. They will then forward them on to the attorney. It will not come from me, it will come from them. And they will give it off to the Treasurer Department for the words needed to support the borrowing request.
Okay. Moving on to the fiscal year '26, second half sewer usage billing. We are accepting this letter as the board's second half commitment for fiscal '26 sewer users fee in the amount of $3,730,088.27 per our vote.
So the commas and decimal points are in the right place.
I believe so.
Well,
There's a page stapled to the back of that. Is that related to that letter?
Only is that the receivable amounts,
It's page 585 of 585, and it's stapled to the letter.
I believe these were accounts that were where the water usage was reinstated, so they were added into the billing at the last minute.
I see. Thankfully, not all 585 pages are.
No. Can I have a motion when ready?
So what we're voting on is to approve the sending of this letter to the treasurer's office
Yeah, to bill it out, yeah.
to bill it out. And this is no change then in the EDU, is that correct?
Well, only in that we're billing 5 accounts that came back online.
That's the only change, though?
Yeah,
So-
that's the only change.
So the base
Basis, everything
account
else is
number
the
for
same.
EDU is the
Yeah,
same?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I move that we accept this letter as drafted for sending to the town treasurer collector.
and the amount.
That the second half commitment for the fiscal year 2026 sewer users fee is in the amount of $3,730,088.27.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the WPCF Director Report.
Wait,
Oh.
there's something else in the packet.
What's that?
Omitted bills. Omitted bills for the amount of $4,829.50. Could be these the ones that caught up? Because we were told they had water and they hadn't been online? Which is different than what we saw attached to the other one.
Yeah, so could we have some explanation for that?
I do not. Scott, can you enlighten us? And where am I,
I don't know what that is.
where are you seeing that?
It was,
Sandy?
it was in the packet after the one we just voted on.
Yeah, there are 2 letters to John Foster,
Really?
town treasurer collector.
Well, this is odd because
Oh,
Mr. Foster is no longer the town treasurer
You know,
collector.
Victoria found
Oh,
a bunch of addresses that should be getting sewer bills that weren't, and the reasoning was, I guess a couple administrative people before had, the water had been shut off, so they got their
abatement.
They got their abatement, but the person removed what they would be billed for, the amount they'd be billed. So even when they came off abatement, it was a zero sum.
Because I know we were given a list of everybody that had abatement. I went to the water departments and asked them who had water. And so we found some people who had had water back on after being abated. And so leads me to believe that we're catching up with those people that had sewer, even though they were not billed.
Yeah, yesterday though, I know that was the topic of conversation, that she had found people that what their fee was going to be was zero, because they had removed it. Rather than just put it on hold, they removed the.
Oh,
actual sum.
totally remove it. That's different than abatement. Okay. So this is some administration cleanup.
Yeah, she's going through every single thing.
Okay.
excellent.
But it wasn't in time to put in that first letter, is that right?
Appear to be right.
So the total amount's gonna be this $3,730,088.27 plus the $4,829.50.
Yes.
Okay.
think that's why she put it in there, so she could get
I-
it going with the clerk again to get those.
Identify it as a separate, why it, okay, never mind. So it's just cleaner to show it as a separate amount because of the conditions in which we're being billed at. So was that your motion, Scott?
I haven't
Oh, I thought you did.
made it yet. I'm just looking at the previous letter actually now. I'm wondering about the 27 cents. Stupid, I know, the 27 cents, when the billing is $185.75. How did we get to 27?
Because not all the abatements are whole.
Okay. All right. So I move that we accept for transmission to the town treasurer collector, the letter dated February 12th, 2026, of the board's second half commitment for the fiscal year 26 sewer users fee in the amount of $4,829.50.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we can move on to the anticipated WPCF Director Report.
Right, well, as you know, it's been cold out, so we did have some freeze-ups at the plant, but everything was handled very well, so we didn't have any catastrophes, but there were some pipes that definitely froze. Oh, so we did have some pipes that froze over the last couple weeks that have been brutally cold, but the crew handled them really well. We didn't have any real catastrophes. We're working on clarifier 3 right now. It seems to have frozen and actually tipped the gearbox, so we're trying to figure out exactly how to repair that. So we're down to 2 clarifiers right now, but that's okay. The system's working very well. As Bob had said earlier, the construction's going well. It's been a little bit hampered by the snow and ice, but they are moving forward. We're gonna start the bypass of the headworks so that they can start working on the headworks at the beginning of March. So they came in yesterday with a plan on how they were gonna do it. So seems like a pretty robust plan, 4 very large pumps that are gonna work in succession. So as the level rises in a 14-foot deep tank, they will increase the speed and pump it through the system so that we don't have any overflows or anything. But the worst-case scenario would be that it just ends up in the trough they're working in, and that's gross for the workers, but otherwise, they'll be all right. Won't be any environmental disasters. And that is about it. Well, we went to the FinCom this morning. So that was fun, and then that's about it, yeah.
Was there any impact with everybody doing dribbling to keep their pipes from breaking? Did you notice a
Doesn't
major
appear.
increase in flow or anything?
No, it doesn't appear to have that issue right now. We seem to be doing very well.
I collected mine in a bucket and then used it to water my plants.
So what, if you don't mind, Scott, what pipes were frozen at the plant?
Some of the solids dewatering building, one of the heaters had let go, or not let go, just it wasn't functioning right, so now we've got that working again, so, that was about it though.
So then what is affected when the pipes are frozen?
Well, we can't use the plant water, which is how we, clean the belt for the, gravity belt filter.
So that's kind of recycled water from within the plant? So then do you use city water for that?
Nope.
So then it's not, you just can't do it?
Yeah, we just took a day off doing it.
Okay. All right. And is there any way to, is it a big deal when those pipes are frozen, or no?
It just makes you nervous, because if it freezes, obviously the pipes could burst.
They could burst, they're copper pipes or something?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way to prevent that? Is there a good maintenance solution, maybe wrapping them in?
Oh, we just gotta keep up with the heaters, because it's a very big building. So when we lose one of the 4 heaters, it makes one section of the building cold. So we tried to open doors, and we just couldn't keep up with the cold.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business. Have we any to be discussed?
So the only old business that I would bring up is that we have a lot of old business.
Yes.
And I've sent out by email a list of old business items that need to be on the agenda. I don't want to discuss any of those today because they're not on the agenda, but I would like for them
They'll be on the next
to
agenda.
be on the next agenda, and we can then deal with them in a rational and a timely way.
Yeah, they'll be on the next agenda. It was just a time issue this time around, well, a combination of time issue and other things. Moving on to unanticipated items received in the last 48 hours. I don't think there's any, but does anybody have anything to add? No? Okay, well then, the next meeting date and time will be February 26th, 2026, right here in the multi-service room, 520 at 6:30 PM. Do I have a motion
Make a
to?
motion, we adjourn at 2:25.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, everyone. This, I'm going to call to order the workshop meeting of February 12th, 2026. The time is 2:30. We are located in the Multi-Service Center, room 520 at 48 Marion Road in Wareham. May I have a roll call, please?
Scott Sobey?
Bob Scanlon?
Sandy Slavin.
We have a quorum. And so moving forward, we have 5 items. I am going to call Russ Kleekamp to present information for the Narrows Force Main project. Good afternoon, Russ.
Good afternoon. For the record, Russ Kleekamp, engineer with Environmental Design and Research. Give a brief update on the status of the Sports Main project. So I think the best news I can present right now is we did actually hear back from Mass DOT on borings. So our draft submission for the boring plan to Mass DOT has been moved from the 25% phase to the draft phase. That was acknowledged in the email by Mass DOT to the designers, Weston and Sampson, and we expect to have a formal email back by February 23rd. So that's not next week, but shortly the week after. So with that, fingers crossed, we can get out there and start doing the soil borings.
So that means that they don't have any major objection? Is that what that means?
I believe so.
Okay, thanks.
And it really shouldn't for a boring plan. Like the big thing DOT looks at is just traffic control. Each boring is probably an hour, maybe. We're not going terribly deep. And it's just the progression going every, it was either every 300 feet or every 500 feet. I'd have to check the plan. So there's just a few days of sequential borings and, mobile detail that goes along with that. And that's usually for the borings, the biggest thing that DOT is looking at. So we're just thankful we got a response back from them. We are having a meeting with Scott next Friday. It's our monthly check-in meeting with the design team. So the design still has been progressing. And I'd be happy to come back at your next meeting in 2 weeks. I know we talked about monthly updates, but I tried to time the monthly meetings with the director so they happen the Friday before the Thursday commissioners meeting, so we can give a more thorough update. So I'm happy to come back in 2 weeks to give a thorough update. We'll be looking to the design team to see, focus on when we can get the draft set of plans, so we can take a look at those. But now that the modeling is complete, determining the size of the force main, we got movement on the soil borings from Mass DOT, and the design team also just received the property line information from JC Engineering, which is critical for the tie-in closer down to the railroad, because we really have to understand the limits of town, or the road layout, private property. So when we go to design our boring and jacking pit out there, we just have clarity on exactly where that goes. So now that we got the property line information, we can come up with the details for the boring and jacking, and then the next step will be coordinating with the railroad. So there'll be a process with the railroad company too to get that through the permits, but we had to get the land rights and determine the location of the boring and jacking before we reach out to the railroad. So that'll be the big push for the next month, 2 months, is to get moving with that, and then probably likely within that period. Now, once we get the borings plan, we'll have an alignment of the pipe, and we'll be filling out the conservation permitting. I'll reach out to the conservation ahead of time. I'm gonna ask for a request,
Do I,
request a determination of applicability, because we're really not altering any of the landscape out there. We would look to put this in as an RDA, but if for some reason it comes back and a notice of intent is warranted, we're prepared to go that way as well.
keep in mind that you got two sewer commissioners here also on conservation, so you're going to have should I say, a team that knows what you're going to be saying.
It's helpful. What was the date and time of your Friday meeting?
It is next Friday, not tomorrow,
Yeah,
give you the exact date and time.
20th?
the 20th.
Friday the 20th at 11 a.m. And sometimes we do them virtually, sometimes we do it at our office in Hyannis. I haven't figured out the exact details, but I don't want to overspeak, but with the commissioners, like, be involved in those or sitting for one for
Well, we have to be a little bit careful that we don't form
quorum.
a quorum, but if nobody else is interested, I would be.
Yeah, can include you on the invite.
That'd be great, thanks.
So that's really it with the update. I'm happy to stick around for the other discussion if you want me here, or happy to answer.
No, does
What I
anyone?
mentioned to Commissioner Slavin before the meeting started, I think just a thought for town meeting is I'd like to, the town has a piece of pipe that broke earlier at the Thatcher Force Main. It's a 6-inch diameter, cement lined ductile iron, similar material, similar age. And I'd actually like to bring that in as a visual town meeting.
The actual piece of pipe.
The actual piece of pipe showing the deterioration, so we can say that this is what a pipeline looks like that is subject to corrosion. This was pulled out of the ground within the town of Wareham. It was put in the ground around the same time. It was put in the ground. I'd have to go back and look at the record drawings. I think that pipeline might even be younger than the narrows force main, but it will give a very compelling visual to say that this is happening.
Oh, yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, were the forces on those lines similar? So,
Would be around the same, but we could go back and either check the model or look at it. I have the one is an 18-inch, one is a 6-inch. It might be a tiny bit higher on the 6-inch just because it has maybe a different velocity, but I have to look at both of those in more detail to make that comparison.
okay. Yeah, I would just,
And it's not so much certain pipes can break if there is extraneous force. These pipes are breaking because of the deterioration of the pipe, either from the inside out when you have an air pocket where the hydrogen sulfide will first attack the concrete lining, then it will attack the metal.
Mhm.
Or you can actually have corrosion from the outside in, where you have, for example, acidic soils, things like that, or you can have a combination of both, which is the worst case example. But it is a very good visual, and it's reflective of what these pipes look like after 40, 50 years in the ground. The interesting part with the Thatcher Force Main, I believe the break was on an uphill run right out of the station. So that
Okay.
pipeline was fully submerged. It was totally under pressure, versus the Narrows Force Main, where we've seen some of the deterioration where that Narrows Force Main pitches downwards, and the influent on the inside is acting in a gravity manner, meaning there's a large air pocket and that water's flowing down. So if they're coming straight up, that may have been a condition of corrosion from the outside in, because without the air pocket, you don't have the hydrogen that the term skipping, meaning when it's airborne, not submerged, not aqueous. But that's another pitfall of ductile iron. It is subject to corrosive soils. And again, all of this is remedied with the new pipeline. We're gonna make that out of a plastic base, either PVC or an HDPE pipe that is corrosion resistant.
okay. Yeah.
Excuse me, for the record, Gary Pastor has joined us at 2:36.
Okay.
Good to go. Thank you
Yeah,
so
good to
much.
go. Thank you very much,
Russ.
Russ.
Come up for the invite and
Yep.
look forward to having you for this meeting.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to contracts and our responsibility as it relates to contracts, I am trying to set up a meeting with town council to discuss that, so we know exactly where we stand when it comes to okaying contracts and where our responsibility lies and where it does not. So hopefully I'll be able to report back on that next, at the next meeting.
So just, we received a copy of contracts in which on the back page, you'll see why the town administrator must sign it, and that the town council approves it for form,
Yes.
and that Judy Luzerne signs it from the accounting department and indicates the funding source to be used. So to answer the question, we have the contract, it then goes to those three parties for their final signature.
Yep.
The
Before it
question is, who reviews the contracts before they come to us? Presumably Scott reviews the contracts, or, but is anyone from the town looking at those contracts as well?
Well, I think Scott's the town. Who else would, are you thinking somebody else?
Well, if the town administrator needs to sign them, presumably he would look at it before he signs, I would hope.
Mr. Sullivan would do his due diligence in signing a document that he's feel comfortable signing.
So
I
has,
think the question is, what is our due diligence? And
that's right.
I'm trying, well, I'll talk to Rich Bowen about that and lay out a roadmap for contracts and how they're handled and who's responsible for what along the way, just so we have a clear understanding.
So when we see a signature, we know what's been done for that signature to be
Yeah.
applied?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that, I mean, in this previous round of contracts, there was an Exhibit A that was 6 pages long. And in there, when I looked at it, I found a number of errors, including that the start date for the contract was presumably correct, but the end date was 2024. So it looked like the contract was supposed to run backwards for 2 years. So I wondered at that time what level of review of these contracts takes place before it's sent to us for signatures. So this was 6 pages of terms and conditions. And there were a number of terms and conditions that I was wondering, boy, is that going to be really okay with the town council or with us, as a matter of fact, if we were to read them over carefully. And at least we need to be aware that there are terms and conditions with that contract in particular, well, and maybe all of them. There's a Weston and Sampson contract that we'd be okay with. Now, I mean, you can say that it's boilerplate, but if there's an issue that comes down with a contract, what's so-called boilerplate becomes really important from a legal point of view. So what is the exposure of this commission? What is the exposure of the town? And so on. So I don't know if those have ever been reviewed by the town council, if those, I mean, if they change from year, it was just a renewal. But if it's a renewal, we don't know if the terms and conditions were renewed that were approved previously. We just don't know. So Bob, as part of your conversation, we should find that out.
yeah.
Who is reviewing what, when, and at what level?
Would you be available for a meeting, do you think? I don't know if Mr. Bowen is in on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I think he's in today, but would you
Sure.
like to be involved or invited to the meeting?
Sure, I'd be
All right.
happy to do that.
Okay.
Well, not happy, but I'll be available.
Okay.
I would
Well,
be
you-
willing.
You have good questions, and I'm sure he will have good answers for that.
I mean,
And we'll put
Carrie's
that to bed.
Carrie's more of a contract expert than I am, but I do have these questions.
Okay.
No, they're very good questions. If I could just make some general statements in my past world, 99.5% of these contracts that are coming through are contracts that are already part of the RFP. I'm assuming that most of the contracts here are coming through off a request for proposal, all right? And both sides, we have written the contract, the bidding people, companies have seen the contract, so they know what they're getting into. So by the time it gets here, I thought it was our responsibility to make sure that, yes, we're signing off, that we're requesting the funds or whatever, in order to fulfill this contract. Not to get into the language of the contract or the RFP or whatever, that's all done by the operating entities of the town when it comes to procurement under Chapter 30B. They're sending that out, all right? And then in most cases, there's a contract, sample contract attached to that, so they know what contract they're getting into. Here, all we should be doing is, like I said, is looking at it, authorizing it, that we are in agreement for the money, et cetera, and we go from there. But to sit down and go through the language, I don't think is our role. I don't know what the Wareham process is. I'm new to this. But I'll be honest with you, in my world, I've never seen anything like this, the way this flows. I mean, January 24, it sounds to me, with the 24 date, sounds to me, I'm not being critical, that may have been a contract that was to that same RFP back a bidding cycle ago, and they just carried it over without checking it, wordsmithing it, et cetera. I guarantee that's what happened. I have seen that in the past.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah, that was, the question I had was like, at what level are these things reviewed? And so clearly someone missed those, and I can't remember, did I send that to everybody?
Yes.
yes.
I did, that, I had a number of points, it's like, oh, boy, this doesn't look so sweet. So, yeah, so, Bob, we need to ask those questions about who reviews,
A
at
renewal
what level.
should be quite simple. You're just renewing the past contract, you changing the dates around and/or pricing, et cetera, scope, spec, span of the contract, minor things in it, so to speak, and it gets you re-signed off.
Yeah, but so the terms and conditions are going to be written by the company with whom we are contracting. I mean, it was a letter from, or attachment from Weston and Sampson. And I'm not criticizing Weston and Sampson here by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying, but they're going to write that from their
Perspective.
and what their attorneys are saying to them needs to be in those terms and conditions, including requirements of the town. And there's this whole section in the terms and conditions about what the town is required to do to fulfill that contract. It looked okay to me, but I think that's an area that needs to be reviewed by somebody. It may not be our role to do that, but we are signing that contract.
I don't believe it is our role, and I understand this company putting terms and condition in, which makes me believe that they weren't happy with the language in an RFP, so even though they're the accepted bidder company, that, hey, if we're gonna sign a contract, we need to add this to protect us. You can add what you want,
Yeah.
right? So,
But both parties need to agree to the language,
Absolutely.
so. And by signing it,
that shouldn't be us. We're not legal, so to speak.
right, but, I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
But there are things that jumped out at me as being worthy of review. as it
Being
were.
Scott, yes.
Yeah, so, all right, so we'll take care of that in our meeting. And if it's a lunch meeting, I'm more than happy to attend.
Okay. Well, we'll try and, we'll see what we can do.
He eats 24/7.
We'll see
so
what we
there's
can do.
No problem getting the time.
Before Joe comes back in, I don't know about review and discussion of the task list. We don't have it before us, so I'm tempted to table that for now.
Was I supposed to resend it?
No, I don't know.
Well, the only discussion, Bob, we don't need to look at the individual items on it.
Okay.
Just the idea that these are things that we have had in our agendas over the last year or so that have just kind of slipped by the wayside, and we need to review them. So Sandy sent me a list of 55 items,
You cleaned it up?
and I have condensed them into a substantially smaller number of items. And I think I've made them in a way that we can handle them either by doling them out to individuals or subgroups to work on. But I think we can start dealing with those items,
I think so.
but we have to have them on the agenda so that
Yeah.
we can work on them.
Well, like I said, the next agenda, they'll be on it.
Okay.
And we'll be able to dig into them.
May I add to that, the way I looked at that, and Sandy, yes, I thank you for sending that out, I saw that. I look at this as part of the agenda scenario, that I believe that we should have on the agenda, an update of our projects, i.e. what we just witnessed here and listened to. We ought to have what our objectives are moving forward. And then there needs to be some tasks there that we need to check off on a bi-weekly, monthly basis, whatever, in order to make sure we're getting these things done. When I first see the list and we put it together, we'd be here for 7 hours in a meeting trying to go through each one of the tasks that we want to find out. So
And-
we gotta prioritize those.
That's why Scott put out this old business agenda item, so this is his attempt to put a standard format for our agendas, which includes what you're talking about, so we don't continue to ignore things and put them off and never get them done.
I think what
So
we're
they
talking
stay in
about
our
is the
face.
format first.
Yes, so,
What the agenda should be, and then the items that are gonna go in.
yep.
These are my names, my categories. You may have other ones, blah, 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 and we can work within that. Is that?
Right, so the chair might say, okay, Sandy, you're responsible for the
A,
revision
B, and
of-
C.
Yeah, A, B, and C, and then Carrie, your
Okay.
D, E, and F, and
Correct.
so on. And you can form subgroups to help with it, like Bob and I are gonna work on the EDU revisions and so on. So, but we need to have them on the agenda so we can not forget them
Yeah.
and move them all forward. And they're all important. Every single one of those that I sent out is important. And by the way, that was condensed, so each of the commissioners sent to Sandy what their priority items were. Sandy condensed them to 55 items, and I've further condensed them into, what is it, 12 or so.
I'm sure there are a lot of there were duplicates there,
Yeah.
because I wrote what everybody submitted to me. I did not editorize them.
Now, to be correct, they were all originally submitted to me
Okay,
and on
Yes.
to you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and this is what happens, this is the same thing that happens in our meetings.
yep. But now they're gonna be on the agenda.
Correct.
We can deal with them. Okay.
Okay. We have Joe Manning, would you like to step forward and discuss your proposal?
Is this item B?
This is item B.
3B, okay.
You made the agenda. Congratulations. Just identify yourself and where you're from, if you wouldn't mind.
Joseph Manning, Fulcrum East,
Manning, Mass?
M-A-N-N-I-N-G, correct. I'm a strategic consultant. My office is out of Boston, but primarily I do work on Cape Cod, on the south. Please designate.
Maybe I think Joe can help us with some outreach to the community and help us educate people as to what's going on with the sewer department and what we're looking at in the future and how to work towards those goals. He worked with a town on the Cape that was starting from scratch, building a sewer system. I don't know if you want to generally talk about that and what you were able to do and how that might translate to the town of Wareham.
Sure. Happy to provide some context. So I grew up on the Cape, that's why I'm back there. And since COVID, I've been working primarily on the Cape because I had no other choice, but did notice that there was a lot of infrastructure issues on the Cape that I thought I could be helpful with. So I've started to work with municipal organizations, nonprofits, elected officials, corporations, anyone that has a passion about pulling on a rope in this area, in this region, to help with these infrastructure projects. I'm keenly aware of the seasonality of the Cape and the surrounding communities. In terms of wastewater, I see it as an integral part of the sustainability equation for the Commonwealth, especially this area. The town of Dennis, which you alluded to, is one of the communities that's been mandated by DEP to get their nitrogen under control, to enter into watershed agreements, to draft CWMPs. And as you said, they were starting from scratch, and they were going to be asking for a significant amount of money. Dennis is a very tax rate sensitive community. Their they're the lowest on the Cape outside of Chatham, but Chatham has far weighted property value, which sort of skews them into a very low tax percentage. The town of Dennis is, I think they're under 5 right now. So they're very sensitive about their tax rates, so a lot of the work that was done on my end in terms of outreach and in terms of education had to do with the financing plan. There was, as you know, wastewater and sewers aren't the sexiest thing in terms of infrastructure. So it was difficult to convince folks why it was necessary. Obviously, the DEP mandates made it a little bit more clear as to why we had to go into the amount of work that we had to go into. And over the course of months, I provided strategic advice to the select board, to members of the wastewater implementation committee, which was Dr. Wick, Chair, we worked very closely together. We did a lot of outreach in the form of written collateral. We did digital collateral. We established an online presence in social media called Wastewater Wednesday, which attempted to make it more approachable of a conversation. We spent a lot of time talking about, in general, why wastewater projects work for communities that are impacted by nitrogen and phosphorus and forever chemicals and on down the list. And we made it approachable. We humanized the conversation, we standardized it, we regulated it, and it was a constant drip of information. So we were able to start to engage folks where they were at. For the most part, they were Facebook, they were public libraries, COAs. We did have some breakout meetings at schools. We scheduled those around dates and times where people were going to generally be available. We made our engineers available for questions. We made our town officials available for questions. We really went out of our way to exhaust everyone's concerns. It wasn't necessarily a process of trying to convince people how to vote when they got to town meeting. It was more of a process of taking all of the surprises out of town meeting. We were able to accomplish that. Dennis voted unanimously at town meeting to spend over $200 million on their phase 1 sewer project. So that was the most recent example of the wastewater projects that I've worked on, but frankly, it doesn't really matter what the widget is in terms of what I'm trying to make more approachable, whether it's a political candidate or another municipal infrastructure project, or it's a corporation who has a brand or a product. It's all about standardizing the communications. It's all about answering every question until there are no more. It's about having a constant drumbeat of communications back and forth between whatever the entity is and the people that they're trying to reach. So my work takes that form generally. I liken it to braiding ropes. All of you are concerned with sewers and wastewater, and that's the rope that you like to pull on. You're passionate about it, or otherwise you wouldn't be giving it your time. Everyone has a rope that they like to pull on. I try to braid multiple ropes together so that we're all sort of pulling in the same direction. It makes it easier, it makes it more effective, it involves more people. You know, it strengthens the community. So as much as I said, wastewater is not necessarily the most sexy infrastructure, it does have the ripples associated with it, and it has the ripples associated with it for the viability of the economy, for the viability of the schools, for the viability of the public safety network, the housing stock, et cetera, property values, and on, the beaches, the tourism, all of it. We appreciate why wastewater is sort of the strand that runs through all of that. So the proposal that you have in front of you, I believe, forgive me, I didn't print it out, sort of paper reverse, but I can email it to all of you at the end of this if you don't have it. Just perfect. describes what I was just alluding to and what I'm suggesting as a program. I do have some questions. I just bumped into Russ as he was walking out. So have you completely finalized your articles and your asks for town meeting for the spring?
We have.
We have approved and we have not submitted them yet,
Okay.
which means it can be tweaked.
Why are you asking?
Well, two reasons. I've spent some time since I met with a small group of commissioners a few weeks ago, looking at what level of communication there is between the sewer commission and the town, and there's not a whole lot. So basically, we'd be starting from scratch. And again, as I alluded to, we're trying to mitigate surprises at town meeting. We're talking about April 27th, is that when your town meeting is? Or May, first week of
April,
May?
fourth Monday in April?
I think it's the 27th,
I think that's right.
mistaken. That doesn't give us a tremendous amount of time to gin up a conversation with all of the people that we imagine are gonna be at town meeting. And I don't know what your turnout is generally, but I'm guessing it's probably anywhere from 600 to 900.
It's about 150 or so, isn't it?
200 people,
Really?
Depends, yeah.
depends on the subject matter.
And the weather.
Right, in the subject matter, right, so, I ask because, you know, part of the strategic consulting that I do is to help towns plan around what preparation needs to be done, what the ask needs to be, whether or not those asks need to be combined, whether they need to be staggered, how they can be presented in a tactical way that, you know, obviously, like I said, I'm not trying to convince people how to vote at town meeting, but we're trying to get projects built, trying to get stuff done, so. Russ had mentioned to me that you had a big ask, that you're gonna couple with a smaller ask to follow if the big ask doesn't get passed.
We're asking for 26 million to do a major fourth line, from center of Wareham down to the plant, down Route 6 Sandwich Road, and then two other components to it for 26 million. If that doesn't pass, there's a second article behind it for 16.5, just for the Sandwich Road Force Main Line, without the other two components.
And that's coupled with rescinding a previous article for $6 million because.
It was never used.
It was never used, and the scope for that 6 million has changed. So we want to rescind that, and that will become part of the 26 million, so.
But in a broader context, we have a draft CWMP that's looking at $596 million over the next 20 years in 2024 dollars. That's the big ask. The $26 million is big enough, but to go more than $500 million for a town like Wareham is a huge bite.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Frankly, I'm sort of reticent to have a strategy conversation with you folks. right
Exactly,
here, right
exactly.
now in public.
Well, just providing context for,
No, I
yeah.
appreciate that. And I would have a lot to say about, you know, articles for the spring and then, you know, subsequent articles that are expected in the town meetings to come. One thing I will say is that, getting back to the town of Dennis, they chose not to engage my services and pay the price, and it set them back a couple of cycles. They had a very vocal minority that was able to affect a negative vote, and it made it even that much more difficult to have conversations about why it was necessary.
We had the same situation. We had a $36 million restoration of the update of the plant. The first time submitted, it failed. Next town meeting, it passed because there was a lot more education done between the first and the second town meeting vote that said to the town members, hey, it has to be done. this means a lot. So we learned our lesson that we've got to communicate to the general public and get those that do show up to be supportive of the article.
I know you're hesitant about discussing strategic now for town of Wareham. Can you fill us in on what your strategic plan was for the other town and what happened there?
Sure.
Is it, if it's too similar, then I understand, but
Yeah, I mean, there's a definite strategy to the ordering of articles, right?
Right.
Either or articles. If not this, then this articles. Those are all water finds cracks, right, as you know? So people take the path of least resistance. If you follow what I'm
Right.
saying.
Was their project similar to our project?
Well, their project hadn't even begun. They hadn't even built a plant. So what we did was, luckily for them, the article that they learned their lesson on was only about engineering and design.
Okay.
Right, so after that, I was engaged and we started the conversation, and then we had articles that probably ran 3 or 4 town meetings in a row that sort of built momentum on themselves, right? Because if you've spent all this money on design and engineering, then you're almost,
And what percentage of
Obligated.
the town was gonna be sewered, do you know? You remember?
the first phase is 1,007 addresses, which is
Represents.
probably 1/7 of the town. The towns, as part of their financing model in Dennis, they prioritize commercial corridors, so that they can capture some betterments from the commercial entities, and then they can provide that trunk all the way back to the plant along 28, 134, then they'll move into the neighborhoods from there.
So you were trying to educate the entire population down there on what the value was?
Yeah, I think that part of another difference in Wareham that I think I understand is that folks that are responsible for paying are only those that are connected.
At this point,
At this point,
yeah.
it
But
represents
to your point, in the CWMP, eventually it's gonna encompass everyone.
everyone.
Right.
That's why I'm talking about the education, learning process now.
Yeah, and that's why.
40%, right, 40% sewer
40%,
now
yeah.
approximately? And we need more, we need the other 60% to understand what's coming down the tracks,
Right.
so it doesn't get,
And I won't pull any punches. We did use DEP as the boogeyman. You know, they've now sort of reneged on their 40-year plans that they worked on everyone with, and they've gone back to 20, or rolled it back to 20, which is, don't get me started on how that evolved.
right,
But as you see, I was suggesting a length of contract that would get us through the next 3 town meetings so that we could continue this conversation with people and make it plausible so that we're not stopping and starting every time that they hear from us. It's 2 weeks before town meeting, and we're asking for several $1 million. Whereas if we have a continuing conversation with them throughout periods where we're not necessarily asking for something, but we're educating about the effectiveness of what it is we're doing, then it becomes less jarring to them when we start to turn conversations to the next ask, as it were.
Yeah, so as an example, based on this $26 million versus the 16.5, et cetera, for the second and third, if the $26 million thing doesn't pass, then we're hoping that the 16.5 would pass plus. But the point is that I wanted to make now is that if the first one passes, that brings certain savings because you get a larger pool of contractors and so on to bid on it, so you can likely get a better overall price. So that's something we need to educate the public on as well. So we have immediate applicability of strategic consulting, but I think we have long-term as well. But
I agree.
this is exactly
And
the,
again, this is the strategy conversation
Yeah.
that needs to be
Yeah.
had offline,
Yeah.
because to your point, in addition to the DEP, we also had the looming deadlines for SRF hanging over the process. So they knew that if they didn't pass it at a given town meeting, we were gonna miss the deadline, and then we were gonna miss the 0% financing, we're gonna be costing ourselves $100 million on the back end regardless. We weren't gonna have a choice, because we weren't gonna get that type of financing. So, it can't ever be taken out of context. What I would say is that if we're talking about starting something, it's a normalization of conversation, right? But it's also about building upon whatever momentum you've been able to garner as you move through.
And just so everyone's aware, we are subject to open meeting law. So if we have an offline discussion, we have to be careful that we don't have quorum.
True.
I'll be absolutely sure that I don't
Okay,
put anyone in
Yeah.
a bad position.
all right,
I'm well aware of all of that.
all right.
Okay.
This is for
I
general,
would suggest that, I think I heard as I came in, you were talking about creating a subgroup or
several subgroups to work on agenda items, yeah, yeah, right.
It'll work out like that, yeah.
Yeah.
right. And that's what we did in Dennis. We didn't have the entire wastewater implementation committee meeting with me.
Right.
I was meeting with the chair,
Yeah,
and then she would take it back.
right.
So, you can't ever take this stuff out of context. I think that, you're in a good position because, to a certain degree, it's not something new. 40% to 40% of the people, it's normalized, right? I think those 40% will probably like to see some involvement from the remaining 60% too, and vice versa, when we start to talk about who's responsible.
Yep.
Yes.
I don't know what your plans are in terms of the financing model, whether that changes or not, whether it stays the same, whether it's working. I have no contextual understanding of where you guys are at necessarily, but all that stuff would become part of it. Plus, we're also gonna talk about what not to flush down the toilet, right? So part of the normalization is to have real conversations with people about things that are happening in the house, things they can talk about with kids over dinner. Because then it's not this enigmatic thing that we're just asking to pay for.
I mean-
That we actually can see, we can appreciate what it's doing for our beaches and for our hospitality economy and on and on and on.
Just the idea of saying, please, if you've done bacon, wipe out the pan before you wash it. Remove the grease before you wash it. I mean, it's just, well, no, but it's that type of education that is critical to understand what should or should not be
Right.
flushed.
Yeah, and again, you have an IT department in the town of Wareham, you guys have a public access channel, you're producing some level of content on video. We had an opening and a close for the wastewater Wednesday videos. One was just the flushing of a toilet, so it just showed water going down a toilet, and then we got into whatever we were talking about, and it ended with water flushing down a toilet. So it just sort of brought it back to everything that you're doing inside your house, whether you think it's unrelated or not, it is.
Excellent.
So Joe, your proposal doesn't include any numbers.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna negotiate against myself in public.
That's fine with me, but I'm just wondering if you would be willing to submit something to the chair, Jim Gibberti, maybe a three-town meeting timeline.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah,
sense?
that seems
Yeah.
plausible. I just threw that out there because I didn't know what the plan was in terms of
Yeah.
articles and staging the articles and things like that. So
Well-
you guys know what you have to get.
We have to start at some point, right? So,
And this group didn't even find out about the, or at least me, the minor road force main replacement thing until this summer. That's the first time I heard of it. I remember it was quite warm outside when we met with the engineers. So my point here would be that we don't know what's going to come up, or I don't know what's going to come up. Something may, I mean, we know we have this CWMP 20-year thing. We know we have to deal with that. We know we have the force main replacement issue, but we don't know any additional items that we might have to deal with in the shorter term. And so I'm thinking maybe a three-town meeting cycle would make sense, at least to start.
agreed.
Just can you ballpark the amount of money we're talking about over the next 3 town meetings?
I don't, this is the point
Well,
I'm
see,
trying to make, we don't know.
This is, What we have on the plate right now is the 26 million to do the force main down Route 6 and the two other components to it to bring in what is on Minot Ave and a local pump station to go into that force main. That is the only thing we have any engineering information about. Other than that, there's nothing beyond it.
And it's also our priority right now.
It is our priority.
So,
So to say anything after that, unless
When's
we've,
the deadline on articles?
23rd of February
For the regular,
for the regular town meeting, and if it's for special spring, which is what we're focusing on, because we're trying to use retained earnings, which haven't been set yet. A special spring is, I think, the first week in March. But our,
Do a special spring just for your article?
no, we always have a special spring to finish the end of FY '26 before we
Okay.
go into FY '27. But our articles are to borrow on the 26 million. We just want to get it in the works so they start doing all the accounting component to put the right words in the article to support the borrowing.
so let me ask this question. Do we know the status of the draft CWMP? Has it been approved by the select board?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
So the follow-up question then is, if it has been approved, and we don't know,
That's GHD?
Yes.
yes. If it has been approved, are there items that we should start moving ahead on, moving on this, on the CWMP? Are there engineering projects that should be started by planning, permitting, all that kind of stuff? I mean, when do we start implementing the CWMP is my question.
I think we've started.
We started because of the force main issue.
And that,
It also provides the outfall issue.
Yeah, we have to
which
deal
then
with,
leads to the expansion issue, so
We're on our way, we're down.
making,
So-
we took a huge leap.
so
But-
the,
yeah,
moving the outfall, we haven't seen any engineering or numbers on it yet to even consider putting it on a town meeting floor.
right, so that's basically my question is that something that could be moved ahead? In answer to Joe's question, what do we have for numbers for the next 3 town meetings? Is the outfall the next engineering project? What is the next engineering project? And do we need to start moving this CWMP planning forward now? We all know it takes a long time to get these things going, right?
Yeah, I don't know that you can't start working on your CWMP even if it hasn't been approved. I mean, if you're just waiting for someone to sign off on it, I don't know that you can't start.
We can start on it,
Concurrently, right.
certainly, but we want to make sure that everyone's moving,
Yeah, no,
that the ropes are all woven together and we're pulling together.
You like that analogy, don't
I
you?
do.
Well, I think, if I could, the point behind repurposing the original force main was to reduce the scope of moving the outfall. So we can at least discuss the benefit of doing all 3 phases at once of the $26 million project, in terms of, if you don't do it now, the cost goes up, and we may lose the opportunity to reuse this force main and save a lot of money.
But
Yeah, right.
repurposing the force main for an outfall was not part of the 26 million.
No, correct. But if you don't do the 3rd phase, which is to remove all the tie-ins to the existing force main and put in a
Which-
new main,
The third
Then-
phase of the
then
26
we
million.
don't get that opportunity.
Isn't your railroad, Joe, without getting into pricing, to help us from a public relations standpoint, a domino effect of the articles and how we do some of this, right?
It is.
In notifying the townspeople?
It is.
Is there any way you can provide us some type of a ballpark figure, not here, regarding the span and scope of what you can do in order for us to accomplish these topics that we're getting into?
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah, I
on
think
a
it-
project basis, an hourly basis, something so that we can sit down eventually and negotiate.
Sure.
Is that
Now, the way
possible?
that, just for your,
Yeah.
to answer your question, the way that I normally operate is as a monthly retainer,
Is it what?
as a monthly retainer.
Okay,
And I will say that a lot of the work is front-loaded because a lot of these channels haven't been set up yet or cultivated in any way. But then we'll get into a regular rhythm, and it makes it a little bit more predictable for me. There'll be public meetings, I'll be a part of those, I'll be emceeing those, if you will. I'd like to put people that have an ability to answer technical questions in the room. I'd like to put a couple of elected officials in the room, people from the sewer commission in the room. But I'd also like to work with the IT department and put a face on it, on video. I'm volunteering you to be
I
on
thought you were
video.
calling me it.
No,
I understand, so.
face on it.
Do you understand, if we give you maybe a clearer picture of what the projects and when they started or where they're going to, and you can say, hey, I believe you should be doing this, this, and this, and here's my retainer fee, and I'm gonna cover in this scope, I'm gonna
Yeah.
cover this, this, and this?
And that's not necessarily a function of how much you're asking the
Correct?
public for. It's more a question of how complicated the explanation is to the public.
I think it's gonna be quite complicated.
I do too.
Because we're all involved in this, and we need to turn around and educate the people, whether they agree or don't agree. We still gotta have the ability to educate them properly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. It takes a year on the sewer commission to get sort of caught up with everything that's going on in the sewer department.
At least.
At least a year just for us coming on to figure out what's going on. So it is a complicated business.
Well, lucky for you, I have a good relationship with Mark Drainville. So he and I have spent a lot of time working on the Dennis project. So we've already stipulated to a lot of the vocabulary. He knows what I need to prioritize in terms of information. So that sort of shortens my education by a lot.
Yeah.
So I mentioned what I think we need from you in layman's terms, all right? Could you tell us what you, not right now if you don't have it, what you need from us to make it easier for you and you can have a better proposal?
Yeah, well, I don't think I need anything more from you than I already understand on the front end. But certainly after an engagement, I'll want a lot of information and I'll want.
After we agree on pricing, you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of this work is gonna be for me to bring a strategy,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So,
And not to get into the details of strategy at the moment, but there are certain, but I might mention something. But there are certain things that are going on at the sewer plant that the community needs to know about. There are really great things happening over there. The innovation that Scott has brought, the level of maintenance that has saved the public a lot of money over the past couple of years, and the public needs to know about this.
Nobody knows about it, except us, basically.
yeah, and that's part of building the rapport.
That's right.
Right.
Part of, starting a conversation about, new buildings and new technologies and what the net impact is for future generations and on and on. I mean, that's where the real conversations happen because frankly, no one really cares what happens after they flush.
That's right.
And that's the challenge, so.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
can't-
very much.
I can't wait for the tours. The school children at the plant.
Little golf cart.
I'm just
tour
kidding.
buses running
I'm not
through
serious.
Universal Studios.
Joe, would it help to see a copy of our articles as to what we're presenting for spring?
Does Mark have copies of that?
No, I have them. I haven't sent them out yet. Would you
Yeah,
like to, would you like to see a draft of our articles to see what we're looking at for our first phase?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
All right. Well, I think that's great, and I'm
And I'll
just,
get something to Jim,
yes.
and we'll get going.
All right,
Thanks, Joe.
sounds great. Thank you for
Appreciate
appearing.
it.
All right. Next. It's probably titled incorrectly, not the way I would have titled it, but,
I'll send it to you.
as far as the EDUs go,
See, I'm sick. You don't want to do that. Sorry, man.
when I first came on the board, the information that was presented to me about customers of the sewer plant Well, it could have been a lot better. And I did some work about a year and a half ago that made it better, and I kind of set that aside. I got sidetracked because of information that I found in there. It led me in a different direction. But as of this week, and I really truly cannot tell you the genesis of how this all came about. Jim and I were talking at the plant, throwing ideas out there, and I was able to come up with much more complete information in a matter of minutes than I had been able to previously. And it led to a discussion on how to make the billing more equitable for the people in town. And it seems pretty promising at this point. But I do have more work to do, and I anticipate some cooperation from other boards within the town, which will improve the information that I have and allow us to do some modeling as far as the EDU structure and rates go. So, like I said, it's an ongoing thing, but it's progressing at a rapid pace, and I am hopeful that hopefully at the next meeting, I will be able to have some really solid numbers. The numbers that I have now are pretty darn good. The database that I have is pretty complete, at least on the residential side, and hopefully I can finish that up in short order and then move on to the more complicated commercial side. And when I'm done with that, we should have an excellent understanding of our customer base and be able to form decisions and policies and et cetera off of that confidently without any guesswork whatsoever. So I'm very hopeful for that. And I will say, just as an aside, about a year ago, I started working on a database of the commissioner meetings dating back to the inception of the sewer commission when we took over from the Board of Selectmen, who had been up until that point wearing two hats of selectman and sewer commissioner. And that transition took place in May of 2015. And I think over a matter of months, I was able to put together a database which brought me up to, I want to say 2020. It's been a long time since I looked at it. So I was faced with continuing that up until present day. But while I sat here in preparation for the meeting, I was able to come up with a new way of doing all of that, and I anticipate rebuilding the entire database and having a completely current and much more usable and efficient than I had envisioned originally, and I should have that by easily the next meeting, if not by the end of this week. So things are progressing on the information side exponentially, and I am very excited and shocked at how well it's going.
You know, Bob, thanks for doing that, and if we move from the EDU system to a system based on flow rates or some hybrid system where the industrial, commercial, institutional clients, customers, hookups are based on flow, and maybe there's some modification of EDUs in the residential, though we don't know what that's going to look like. It'll be important for us to communicate that with the public effectively, and that's another tie-in to where,
It dovetails perfectly with Joe.
with the strategic consulting.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Everything seems to be coming together in a very nice way. And the goal is to, well, I always said the goal was to make the Wareham Sewer Department the gold standard of information in this town, and we are well on the way to doing that. And that will help us to make decisions to fairly and equitably distribute EDUs, or, like you said, hybrid base charge and usage charge billing system, if that pans out. But whatever way it works, we will have the information to be able to make a very well-informed decision that can be defended with the public. And also, we'll be able to give this information to Joe, to give to the public and educate them both on what we've done, managed to come up with, and how it forecasts us for the future. So,
Let me say, this is great, great work. And I think you have it to the point where, what I would call, we can play the what-if game, a full optimization. We can say, what if we did this? Everything's gonna be calculated, and we can make good decisions on that, correct?
yes,
That's-
absolutely.
That's what I really enjoy about this.
And where we're at right now, we're probably 90% strong, but if we get cooperation from other entities in town, we will be 100% strong. So our calculations will be on the money. And,
Just as a side note, what determines a bedroom in a house?
That's what we're trying to get defined. The state has a way of defining a bedroom. Someone could say it's a room with a door and a closet. I don't know. It depends. We need to have a definite definition,
Minimum size
Great.
7 by 10 has to have a closet.
What's that?
Minimum size 7 by 10 has to have a closet, has to have a window of, I forget the,
It doesn't-
Egress window
It
type.
does not have to have a closet.
It doesn't?
doesn't. I
It
always
does
wanted
not.
to
A
like-
lot of homes built 100 years ago never had
right.
closets.
But the window has to be a maximum of 44 inches from the ground. I mean, there's the whole.
Whole
Right.
thing, yeah.
Well,
yes.
I brought this up to my neighbors, had this conversation, and we talk about, what do you call it, getting people educated to this. And that's the first thing they said, is that they've had people in the town, for tax purposes, if I'm saying this correctly, reduce the value because instead of having a 4-bedroom, they actually have a 3-bedroom because they don't have a closet. So they only tax you, I may be wrong on this, is what they're saying, Joe Q Public, my neighbors, that they can only tax you on a bedroom that has a closet. So people are saying, wow, I got 4 bedrooms, but I only got really 2 bedrooms, I only have 2 closets, one in this bedroom, one in that bedroom. What I'm saying is, I think we better be really on top of this, and understanding that. You're saying you don't have to have a bedroom?
You don't have to have a
A
closet,
closet, I mean?
Yeah. yeah. But we'll find out what the
Yeah.
exact state definition of it is.
Well, I think it's a moot point. I think.
It kind of
whatever-
is, yeah.
Whatever the treasurer's
Was-
office determines, that's what we go by. It's not for us to determine.
That's on the assessor database.
That's right, yeah. So if there's an error, that's their error. It has nothing to do with us.
And people can also appeal to the assessors department to have,
But wouldn't it affect our revenue if,
It might.
well,
we'd have to make adjustments, yes, but not big adjustments,
Yeah.
not big adjustments. So,
excellent work.
anyway, any unanticipated items?
Before you had asked me a question, when did we last update our EDU rate?
Yes,
You ready?
I am ready.
We went from these are annual numbers, 626 to 646, January 28, 21. We went 646 to 743 on January 2022. That was the first billing was August 1, 22. So
Okay,
it's been a while since we've modified our EDU rates.
okay, good to know.
So there are two ways to think about that. One is we should keep up with inflation because salaries, equipment, and so on is going to go up with inflation. On
Which
the
we
other-
haven't done.
On the other hand, we need to make sure that the budget is appropriate. So we don't want to, the sewer use is a tax.
Yeah.
So we don't want to tax the sewer users of Wareham any more than we need to operate the plant efficiently and have whatever.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah,
So-
you do not just update the EDU rate because we feel like it. There has to be proof behind it as to why we need to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, no ands or buts about it.
That's
And
right.
we are definitely moving in the direction where we will have everything at our fingertips, facts-wise, so that we can make informed decisions on all of the above and more.
Yeah, this is why the consideration of the budget is so important, because the efficiencies that Scott has put into place, the savings with maintenance instead of replacements, has made looks like a appreciable difference in the budget. So even though we may have not kept up with inflation, these innovative modifications may have saved us or saved the sewer users of Wareham a bunch of money, so that we may not need to increase the EDUs. We have to look at the budget and see how that all works out.
Yeah.
Carrie, am I not making sense?
You are. Publicly, I'm not ready to make a statement.
Okay.
Well, I mean, let me just make it simple. So let's say that Scott's methodology and so on saves $1 million a year. It's not going to be that, but let's make it easy. So instead of a $5.8 million budget going to 6.2 because of inflation, it can stay at 5.8 or even go down. I mean,
I understand that. What I'm looking at is if we have retained earnings year over year, which from what I understand, the way the town and the state define retained earnings is the difference between our budget and our operating expenses.
Right.
So if we have retained earnings, why aren't those earnings going back into reducing the rate? Instead of carrying it forward year over year for something we may or may not need down the road, is what I'm saying. So
Exactly.
That's why
yeah, that's why I'm saying we need to make sure we understand the budget so that we don't make that mistake.
So you can look at it the other way, have a bigger budget, less operating, increase your retained earnings, so you can stuff more into the bank, so to speak, year over year, and have them certified by the state.
Well, the idea is to spend to your budget, so there is no retained earnings.
Well, that's a public point of view,
Yes.
all right?
And there's
Not in the
also,
private world.
I know, but people are saying you're budgeted,
So spend it.
so spend it. Well,
I don't
that is
believe in
the-
that methodology.
there is a department in this town that believes that. And comes June, they spend it all, so it's all gone at year end.
Group that is.
Yeah, you think?
Well,
I don't work that way.
in closing, I would say that we are in a transitional state, swinging towards the positive, the very positive, and we are in much better shape this week than we were last week. And we will be in exponentially better shape next week than we are this week, the way things are going. So we're headed in the right direction and gaining steam. And now I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Wait, just one,
No,
No.
just a moment. So at the last meeting, we had two members of the public
Oh, yes.
present to us, Millie Burrows and Susan Mann. And at that presentation, they offered to help put together a meeting of at least two boards, the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission, because we have related items that need to be considered together. And they would like to move ahead with that, if it is the will of this commission to look at that positively. So that's the first thing. So we need to decide whether we want to ask them to help with that. I mean, we should do it ourselves, honestly, but if they're willing to help advocate that, it's okay with me.
I can't look at it as positive, I can't look at it as negative. That's why we'd like what you're talking about to take place, so that I can get educated on it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So I should get, I mean, if that's the will of the
That's my
commission,
feelings on it.
Yeah.
then I can get back with Millie and Susan and ask them to be involved in looking at, this is about CWMP advocacy and general interactions with the Board of Health, Health Department. The second thing that they want us to be aware of is House Bill 4082, and that has to do with tax incentive for updating old and leaky septic systems, actually cesspools, to Title V. And I think that the time has passed for us to send any kind of letter to the state to the legislature about advocating for that, but, and really is more to do with the health department
Yes.
than with us. But I just wanted to bring that up,
That just as my final thought on a macro view of what Joe's talking about,
Yeah.
is having this information always available
Right.
to the public.
right,
You know, whether it's on the bulletin boards, this or that, or newsletters, or however we communicate.
Yes.
So that it isn't brand spanking new every time something comes up. And by the way, you got 2 days to get it done.
Right.
Right?
exactly.
We can't afford to do that. So with that,
I make a motion, we adjourn the workshop at 3:39.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.